Hey guys, Chief Fruity here. This is the BTS for drop number 12. And this one came out a while ago, since this last week I put out 17, so slowly kind of catching up. And for this one, this is kind of a simple BTS here, so I'm going to go right into the drums here. So first I'm going to play the loop. So that is the drum loop, and they have some pretty basic samples, but there's some pretty cool effects used on them. So the kick is a really basic kick, and it's onto track 1 with some reverb. Just that little bit. And it sounds really bassy, but when you pull it up in the mix here, it sounds like a really flat kick. So that's why I had to put on the reverb, otherwise it sounded pretty bad. So I just took off the reverb, so this is what it sounds like without it. You know, it sounds a lot more empty. So with that reverb, it fills it up a little bit more. So that's why I put on some reverb onto the kick drum there. And then I have the snare drum doing the same thing with reverb. Put on some reverb here, a little bit more since it's the snare, so it didn't need as little. It needed more. And then that was what I put on the snare to get the snare to come out a little bit more. Just like the kick, and then I have two hi-hats playing here. I'm gonna mute this and the snare. So the hi-hats, you can tell the volume is is fluctuating with both of the volumes, since one is higher and one is quieter. But the quieter one is playing every note, and then the higher one is playing eighth notes. So that is what I do with the hi-hats to kind of give it to fluctuate a little bit more. And I have crashes here, so just a simple broken crash. This is on to track 8, and there's no effects here. I just put it on here because I like to visualize stuff on the mixer tracks. Nothing really special there, as well as I have a kick here to kind of start off the drop with a double kick, since there's one playing from here and here, just to get the first kick a little more defined. So the first one is always would have been the most defined to really get into the drop. And then I have a sub bass playing here. It's just a sine wave at a really low pitch, and the reason I did that is just because these basses here weren't super bassy, so I wanted to put in some more bass to kind of counteract this higher kind of bass with a lower bass, so it all kind of fits together. And then for this first bass, this is my favorite one used in the whole drop. There we go. And with this one, it's a really filthy bass, and I know it doesn't sound like that in the drop, but it is. So I'll show you kind of why that happens. So in the beginning, I just put up 2 unison, because without it and with it, it just kind of separates out the harmonics a little bit more and adds in some more room for distortion, which I'll show you in an effect later on. But what's really giving it the sound is this prism. So when the prism is off, it sounds like this, and then with it, and it gives it like a super detuned sound, and that's what I was wanting. So I got that detuned sound there, as well as I have a prism amount with the mode Y. That was modulating the prism, as well as on modulator X, it has cut off. And then I have this image time offset, which is on modulation X mapping, so this is going through it as well. And then I have a timbre 1 harmonic level, and this basically is just changing this wave right here just a little bit. Instead of the saws going all the way down like this, it just goes slightly different like that. So it's kind of like a sine wave mixed with a saw, slightly. So that was all I did inside of this harmor. and then on 19, which is the mixer track I gave it, I boosted some EQ here. Really wanted to get these harmonics out that were right here, and I put on some reverb, because without the reverb it sounded really flat, so I added some reverb to get it less flat. And then I put on this wave shaper. This is what was running the distortion I was talking about. So without this wave shaper, you just hear the prism and then it sounds way too detuned. So this gives it some gritty distortion, almost kind of random in a way. And then I put on a Vocodex. This is without the Vocodex, this is with it. And then the Vocodex really kind of brings everything together with a little bit more band values. And then the band multiplier is engaged like 25%. The SG is up a tiny bit, and then the wetness is up to about 60%, as well as I turn up the real, which basically is kind of like a reverb thing, without it, and then with it. So the real kind of works with this reverb in a way. As well as down here, I took out some lows just a little bit. And I turned up, no, I didn't mess with the volume at all there. And then so down here, what I have modulating is mode X, which is the cutoff, and mode Y, which is the prism amount. So that's what it is modulating there. And then the pattern for this first one is just a plain D. And then here I have 4 Ds kind of separated out, and then more Ds, and just all these different patterns, and back to plain D. So that was this first bass here. It is a pretty simple bass that sounds really awesome and watery, and that's what I really like to see in basses. So for this bass here, this FM synth, first I'll play you the patterns it's playing. So this one is a much different FM synth. So this one, first of all, it's playing on G sharp. Here, okay. And then when it's modulating, this is such a different FM synth than most of what I use, is it has no 32 in between, it goes right to a 64, and then back down to a 56. And because of that, when it's all the way disengaged, so that is that. And then for operator 2, triangle wave at 2, saw wave at 2, and then a saw wave at 64, and then a saw wave at 56. And basically the jump from 64 to 56 is what really made this unique. You can see it says highest point here, and then goes down to a lower point here. Highest, then the lower, lowest, highest, and then lower. So that is because of the 2s, and then the 64, and then the 56. So that is it inside of Citrus. And then on the mixer track, I put on a Vocodex. Now what this Vocodex is really doing is just messing with this band gain multiplier with full bands, and a real, and a little bit of SG and wetness, and it is modulating the band values right here, and then this is the cutoff. As well as it has a wave shaper for some distortion here. It's very similar to the wave on track 19, which is here. Actually looks like the same one, except this one's a little more curved. So that gave it some distortion. And then, like I said before, this is running the cutoff, and then this is running the bandwidth. So that's what's going on in that bass. And this one is playing in D, and then this one is playing in G sharp. And then this one is playing in D, that's going up to D sharp, and then G sharp. So that's this FM synth. And then for this final bass is this one. Already you can tell it looks kind of weird. Like, that's just about the most dissonant thing you can do. Like, it's just all these notes playing, they're just completely random, being pulled up to A3. and that is because this was on a GMS. So I do not use this plugin very much, but why I used it this time is because this cool thing with the amount is it can kind of like slide a pitch and it feels like it's going around you. So how I got that is I just put up the amount to here and then the voices up to 11, just on the default, and then I turned it up a little bit. And then on track 10, I put on a Vocodex here to get it to pop out, as well as a wave shaper for some distortion. And then when I put it all together with all these random notes, well, they're not completely random, but you know what I mean. And then, like, I can't even play all of them. Just there's so many notes there, and it's super dissonant. And then modulating is the filter, is the Vocodex bandwidth. Just doing this. So why there's all those dissonant notes there is basically to distort it further and to fill it up even more. And then I have some noise here. So what this noise is doing is it's just some simple noise made in GMS. So how you make noise in GMS is you take the default sound and you take the noise and you turn it from here all the way up to here. And you have your noise. And then you just modulate a cutoff. So these are all doing volume and cutoffs, because why I didn't just do a cutoff is because volume and the cutoff make it a little bit smoother. So I use both of those. And then this ARP thing was just to regulate a possible sound I was using that I took out. So, but the clip is still there. So that's it for this first little section. And then this section, they're the same bass sounds, just different patterns. So first, the drums, it's just playing a standard 2/4 snare, and just keeps doing that except for here. And then there's crashes put in. So this part is basically, it is that same pattern from before but looped twice. It's also, it switched, so here it starts with a 1, 3 to 1, then here it starts with a 3, then 2 1s. And then this is the cutoff and this is the prism. And then it just repeats those patterns. And then on here it is a D sharp, which is the same pattern. No, it was just a D, which is the same pattern that was right here. So that is it for the BTS for drop number 12. So Wreckage came out a couple days ago, and I'm going to be doing the behind the scenes for all of those songs pretty soon. I don't know exactly when I'm going to be getting to that, but it will be in the near future, and those will all be put onto this channel. So I'll see you guys then, and until then, bye.